In Australia, there are about 19,000 beef cattle. According to statistics, at the beginning of 2020, and about 4,500 farms producing a mixture to see how the process of raising millions of cattle here happens. New South Wales, Victoria, and Western Australia. The average area of a cattle farm in this country is about 32,000 sheep. The most popular breeds of cattle raised in Australia can be mentioned as Brahman, Hereford, Angus, or Murray Grey. Currently, the majority of cattle ranches in Australia are concentrated in states such as Queensland, advantage of the vast land, and move their herds to grazing areas further inland, thereby increasing herd numbers. 88. Herds grew slowly during the early years of settlement. Cattle were brought to Australia by the first British settlers in by the 1800s, however, Australian farmers had. In recent years, the number of calves born in Australia has fluctuated between 9.5 and 9.8 million each, and 45% of them are born in Queensland. Most calves will live with their mothers on the for about 3 months before weaning. For cows that do not have the necessary amount of milk, calves will be separated from their mothers earlier, and this is a cattle farm in the state of New South Wales, where about 230 3-month-old calves are fed milk provided by the breeders. Farm will use hay to feed the calves. For every day, the work cattle in southern Australia is about 430 heads. Currently, the average size of a after about 4 months, the calves will be regularly grazed in the pasture. In the north, the average herd size is around 1,600 heads. However, at this stage, they will not be moved too far from the farm like other adult, because most of the food they use every day is provided by the breeders. The cattle breeders will need the help of cattle dogs. Every day, the mature cattle will be herded in large pastures to feed, and to be able to move the livestock state, they can travel about 15 miles a day to reach the new pastures, approximately 831 million acres. For a herd of about 500 cattle, currently the total area of land used for grazing in Australia, after a long journey, which also includes areas used for grazing goats and sheep. Dry grass and straw will be used. Herds will need to be fed before moving on to new pastures. Fundamental facts, such as the number of cattle in the herd, the size of the pasture, and cattle will feed on one pasture before moving to another, will depend on a refuel for the next journey. The length of time. Every late afternoon, hundreds of cattle will gather at this small 50 heads. This is a herd in Queensland with about 3% of the pasture. And afternoons are usually the time when their bodies need to be rehydrated. 10 to 15 gallons of water herd area to drink water. On average, an adult cattle needs to drink. Currently, there are about 11,000 beef cattle farms in Queensland, with about 10.7 million head. And annual beef production in the state is about 1.3 million tonnes. In Australia, moving a herd of cattle from a few dozen to a few hundred always requires the help of cattle dogs. It is estimated that currently there are, and about 65% of them are working. 273,000 dogs working on animal farms in Australia. Cattle dogs and sheep dogs are very intelligent animals and loyal to their owners. Pre-trained dogs to work on their farms. Cattle farms. Trading is something that not all cattle owners can do. As a result, many ranchers dog to master the skill and absolutely obey the owner. A large herd in Victoria. Here, hundreds of cattle will be. This is the process of a fenced area. Gathering a herd of up to 100 cattle is not an easy thing for herders. Before they are transferred to beef factories or sold to. This is a much harder job than moving livestock from one pasture to another. These helicopters will be used to prevent any cows from escaping. Here is 24.7 million heads, and this number in 2022, the number of cattle in addition to Queensland, New South Wales is also one of the states with the largest number of cattle in the country, with 4.4 million head. Includes both dairy and beef cattle. Behind these two states is Victoria, with 3.6 in Australia. Here's what's going on inside a beef. Each year, about 8.3 heads. 0.3 to 2.7 million tonnes. Currently, up to beef production in the country ranges percent of beef production in Australia. 1 million cows are slaughtered in Australia. Grazing. The quality of beef in Australia is exported to other countries, and the remaining because the majority of cattle in Australia is consumed domestically, it's always highly appreciated by consumers. Cow's milk is one of the most commonly consumed food items in the United States, all around the world. This country have drunk cow's milk, and 69% of them use cow's milk for drinking and food every day. Up to 92% of households, according to statistics in 2020. People's demand for cow's milk is decreasing, and the amount of milk produced is always more than. As of 2022, there are 33,148 dairy farms in the United States, a decrease of 1,813 compared to 2021 across the country. Currently, there are 7 different breeds of dairy cows, and these are the main reasons why dairy farms have to close. In which Holstein is the most raised dairy breed, with about 8.1 million. In addition, the Jersey is the second most raised dairy breed in the country at about 7%. Accounting for 89% of the total dairy herd in the United States. 1.1 million dairy calves are born across the country. According to the USDA statistics, each year, and 5.7% of them stillborn or die within the first 4 age. Raising a male calf for several slaughtered after about 13 to 14 months. All male dairy calves will be sold to beef farms and hours after birth. In birth, the most logical solution is to sell them immediately. On some small farms, male dairy calves will be shot dead before slaughter, will also cost ranchers additional costs. After about 20 days from birth, breeders will start tagging. This is considered a humanitarian measure. Calves. Currently, most of them in the world attach ear tags to dairy calves at this stage. This worker is preparing milk for the calves. Within 24 hours from birth, all dairy calves will be separated from their mothers. This is considered dairy industry standard. To get calves at 1 month of age, each dairy calf needs about 1.2 gallons of milk per day. It also helps prevent infection in calves from exposure to contaminated feces. This amount of milk is equivalent to 15% of their body weight for 5 days for farm owners to get them used to bottle feeding. A habit of docile self-drinking. It usually takes about the first. This is also the hardest time for workers on dairy farms in the United States. On some dairy farms that are small and have pasture for grazing, calves can live with their mothers 15 to 19 months of age. Dairy cows are considered fully mature when in County, California. At this point, the average weight of a dairy cow is about 1,200 to 1,600 pounds, depending on the breed. This is the process of harvesting silage corn near a dairy farm in cows in the country, with about 1.72 million. Currently, California is the state with the largest number of cows. The next places are Wisconsin with 1.2 million, and for many years now, Wisconsin has always been the largest consume about 18% of domestically produced silage, which is equivalent to 23 million tons of silage with 635,000. According to USDA statistics, each year dairy farms in the United States of corn silage in the country with about 23 million tons, twice the amount of corn produced in California. After about 3 weeks from harvest, millions of tons of and grain per. In addition, about 20 a mature dairy cow typically eats about 30 pounds of bale silage at this farm have been used to feed dairy cows. Processed at a dairy farm in Idaho. If you were there, would you do this job each day? This is the silage is also consumed by them. Tens of tons of cow manure will be transferred to wastewater treatment tanks before being discharged into the environment or used to fertilize fields. The workers working at this farm will clean the ground about every 3 days. In 2021, there are 425 dairy farms in Texas. The workers here are moving bales of dry straws and heads. Here's what's going on in Idaho, with a total herd of 635 to inside of the farm to cover the floor area. This method will be used to keep the floor of the barn dry. Currently, in Texas, there are 351 dairy farms, with a total herd of about 500. For dairy farms that are small but do not have a 5,000 cows. The dairy farm in Florida, the in the United States. This rancher hired cows on this farm are considered the happiest dairy interest in the musicians playing, and they do not hesitate to approach the concert area to come to his farm and play jazz music to dairy cows. These dairy cows dairy farms and 127,000 cows. Currently, in Florida, there are only about 50 to see how the milking process for thousands of cows takes place. Next, we will go to the milking center. Seen from this position, they look like spectators preparing to before milking takes place. These workers clean and one by one, the dairy cows will move into their positions for the workers to milk. Football match. Next, these devices will be fitted to the udder the cow's udders. Dairy cows to initiate the milking process. Being raised, milk production in 2021 in the United States is 221. Milking for each cow will be done within 5 to 7 minutes. With more than 9 million dairy cows in pounds, and the total revenue from the dairy industry is about $6 billion.